We are time travelling today with Doctor Who. Ooh.
Hello and welcome back to Chat About It, Don't Shout About It with me, Rachel, the Queen of the Woke, as crowned by one of my haters.
Crown you Queen of the Woke!
Let's chat about it.
It's Doctor Who Sunday today, and we are discussing Silver Nemesis, a Sylvester McCoy 7th Doctor story, which was chosen by you, the subscriber, to vote on the current poll. Please head on over to the post page where you can find it. Silver Nemesis was written by Kevin Clark, or Kevin Michael Clark, as I searched his name when I went to check it. It's 1638, and we see Lady Painfort waiting for calculations of when a comet is going to crash land on Earth. She and her servant Richard are going to travel to the future using rudimentary time travel. She wants to track down a statue that she had created of herself named Nemesis. It had been made from Validium, a rare metal that had somehow made it off Gallifrey, that had also given her the knowledge of the Doctor and the Time Lords. However, the Doctor is already there in 1988, waiting for the comet to crash land when he finally remembers what he's there for, to Earth. He is there to prevent the bow and arrows being reunited with the statue. But it's not just Lady Painfort and Richard that he has to deal with, though. There are others who want the power of the statue. A neo-Yahtzee named De Flores and the Cybermen. I did that so I didn't get demonetized. Thank you. Who want to use the power of the statue to turn the Earth into the new Mondas? Can the Doctor and Ace stop them in time and destroy the cyber warships? All right, this story. I think this story is okay. Sometimes, right, with the Sylvester McCoy era, the stories can get a little bit too clever, and I think this is one of those stories. It's still a good story, though. I think for a 3-part story, in this case, what lets it down is that there are too many characters in it. Now, don't get me wrong, I have very few negatives about it, right? Now, but I just want to get this one out of the way first. The character De Flores, other than wanting to get the Nemesis, doesn't really seem to have a very clear trajectory as to why he wants the Nemesis, whereas the Doctor does, and so do the Cybermen. Obviously, that was going to be obvious from when they first landed, and Lady Painfort obviously does too, because we know she created it and we know that she wants it back and wants the power. I honestly don't think De Flores has that much of an impact on the story itself. He's not in it as much as the other characters, I think. They could have cut the character and spent more time trying to show us how the Doctor and Ace were going to escape from Windsor Castle instead of completely disregarding that in the writing or in the editing. I'm not sure where the disregard would have come from with that, but it wasn't shown how they escaped Windsor Castle. They were captured and then suddenly they were no longer captured. Yeah, that bit just sort of didn't make sense. Now, setting that aside, though, the idea and the concepts are certainly there in this story. One of the good things is it's the reminder that the Cybermen react to gold as a way to defeat them. The only worry with that is that the gold it is probably a little bit too easy. However, it's not a plot device they use all the time. Seeing as the Cybermen have a goal of wanting to survive in the future, maybe we could see them overcome their allergy to gold. I don't think it's been done unless I'm misremembering. I don't know if I've misremembered. It's a possibility. You know, when I write these reviews, I just write them in the here and the moment what I'm thinking. They did change it up a little bit though with the arrows, so that was a nice touch. The idea behind the Nemesis is also an intriguing one. I think it plays more into the fantasy elements that we get in the McCoy era. Now, I'm not so keen on the fantasy elements in Doctor Who, but in this, you know, with this review, it's kind of irrelevant. There is a massive crossover with sci-fi, aliens, and sorcery, and I don't really think it's overdone at all. They also really like combining it with history, the sorcery stuff. But although, having said that, that does actually make sense. It's 1638 part of the story is set in, and it would have been a time, I suppose, for witchcraft, as the reign of Charles I was well underway. It wasn't like 9 years later when he was executed. I think having Lady Painfort as a type of witch who could brew potions to take her and Richard to the future after the calculations of the comet added to the story instead of taking away from it. That's what I think about that. I also like the idea that the comet will land 23rd of November 1988. So it takes it to the present day, or the present day at the time. Some people would probably say that it dates it a little bit, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it does. It is set in the reign of our late Queen Elizabeth II, but it's not the primary focus. It does allow for some amazing shots of Windsor Castle and a very brief glimpse of an actress playing the Queen, obviously, but it's not overly meta, and I know JNT could be meta, and it's not too much of a bold statement that is in your face. It doesn't pull away from what the main part of the story actually is, which I know a lot of today's stuff can do that when it goes for the meta. A comet containing the Nemesis crashing to Earth and people wanting the Nemesis for its power. That is the storyline, and it sticks to it. I prefer that it landed in 1988 instead of 1638 because it is fun to see how historical characters react in the present day, and I do wish that we get more historical companions in the future when the show has been rested and rejuvenated properly. I think that we could have seen a little bit more with Lady Painfort, though, and the reason why I say that is because the Doctor reveals in part 2 that he had shot the Nemesis statue into space because there were items that should not have left Gallifrey, the Validium and all that, which is why Lady Painfort knows of the Time Lord and the Doctor. This is the moment where I would say, show don't tell. This could have been done as a flashback scene where we see Sylvester starting to tell Ace, and then you see it flashback and we have like a voiceover or a couple of scenes or something like that with the Seventh Doctor and Lady Painfort and things crash land into a, it could have been done. It was possible. I do find that this happens a fair few times in the McCoy era. We get told, well, actually, even in later Who, New Who, all right? We get told why the Doctor is doing what he is doing, or what he knows, and what he did in the past to make sure that it didn't affect the present day. The reason for me saying that is because, like the idea behind all of this and the fact that the statue comes back to Earth every 25 years so that the Doctor has to send it back into orbit, we should have seen it, right? Not been told it. This version of the Doctor, the McCoy Doctor, at this present stage is also quite dark. The portrayal of the Doctor from Sylvester has changed dramatically by this point. Still a bit of a goofball at times, which is fine, like the moment where he runs off with the bow. His smarts, though, and his darkness play through more, and I like it better than the comedy. But having the little elements of the comedy, because that's what he started out with, just come in from time to time, I do appreciate, and I do actually like it. Just takes it out of it just a tiny bit, and that's okay. The words that they use to make him sound smart, things like validium, and then they also use these clever little, tiny little plot devices, which keeps up the intensity and makes it look like the Doctor knows exactly what he is doing, which I should sure hope so. One of the things that I don't know if the Doctor had figured out, though, is that the Cybermen would want in on the action. He knows that the bow, arrows, and the statues can't be reunited together because he knows the purpose of the statue, which I love as one of those little plot devices. But maybe I missed if it was clear or not that he was aware that the Cybermen were on their way. I might have got that wrong. I don't know. I won't lie. I should have guessed when I first saw it that it was a Cyberman story. It didn't click. It didn't click that the pictures that I was seeing were matching Silver Nemesis. I'm a absolute doofus. You know, it's just one of those moments. It was many years ago that I saw it, though. Still, they are great fun. The cyber leader is once again David Banks. I think this is so important. We have a consistent cyber leader. I know theoretically you can easily change over the cyber leader actor because you can't see his face. However, there are just some consistent characters that need consistency in their portrayal. I know that he only did 4 stories. I know that, okay, as the cyber leader. But I do wish it had been more, like we had with the Master, with Delgado, with Anthony Ainley, or even Davros, you know. I think the cyber leader sort of worked himself up to that point where he could have a regular actor. Yes, the portrayals will differ slightly, but the characters with a consistent actor will have consistent fundamentals, and I like that. One thing I want to pass comment on is the Cyberman costume. The gloves that they wear on their hands, they prevented movement. It looked like they were having a hard time trying to perform with them on. You could see it. Mind you, I'm quite observant in that sense, so it's just a minor thing. If you didn't notice it, it's not that big of a deal. It really isn't. Their plotline, though, the reason why they want the Nemesis is a very typical thing of the Cybermen. Okay, is it predictable? Well, although Earth is now going to be the new Mondas, and the only thing that can really help them is the Nemesis statue. Is it a trope? A little bit. But if you know your Doctor Who history, then you know what Mondas is. Mondas is the sister planet for Earth, if you don't know, making the Cybermen's original bodies more like us humans, which is why they would want something like the planet Earth. Now, that I think about it, actually. Maybe the Doctor did know that the Cybermen would be landing there in 1988. I also like the fact that we do get what appears to be a definite full stop on the cyber leader. I don't know if that's because JNT figured that the show was on thin ice and asked Kevin Clark to destroy the cyber leader completely with the gold arrow. Who knows, really? Who knows? It's not that big of a deal, but it does make you wonder the way that this series has a lot of finite sort of moments to it if he did actually know that it was coming. I must admit that I do like the ending. I approve that the Doctor is able to do the main bulk of the problem solving that he is supposed to do. He is the hero, of course. He is going to set the Nemesis off into the cyber fleet, which overall is a great idea, and he is only able to do so by double crossing the Cybermen and waking up the Nemesis with the bow. However, however, I quite like Richard losing his temper with the Cybermen and him shooting the leader with the gold arrow. I also think that the Doctor did a really decent thing, even though Richard's intentions was not necessarily the best, and he returned him to 1638. I think that shows that he, as an alien, can still have compassion for different species, including the humans. There's one thing in this story that happens, and I didn't know where to put it in this review because of how it's handled. One of the proposals that was put forward into the writing of this story was who was the Doctor, sort of 11th hour sort of thing. They make it a point to have Lady Painfort say that she knew who he was, but they don't play into it enough with Ace. Remember, she went traveling with someone she didn't really know anything about all that well, so she would be well within her right to ask him. I honestly think that it could have been pushed more. There doesn't seem to be a reveal. Oh, sorry. No, doesn't seem to be a reveal. Of course, there's not going to be a reveal. There doesn't have to be a reveal. Why should there be? It's not needed because it's one of the greatest mysteries of the Doctor. It would just have benefited more from the push, in my opinion, if that was one of the main proposals of this particular story. Now, those cliffhangers were pretty good as well. The cyber ship landing and the Cybermen exiting the ship is cool, and the reveal of the cyber warships that were invisible, really good. Really, really good. Which makes me want to perhaps comment on the special effects. I never ever give the special effects for this time enough love. The special effects at this point in the show's history had started to improve drastically. From the Doctor and Ace getting shot at, to Ace throwing explosives into the ship, the pyrotechnics on the Cybermen. I think effects like that in Doctor Who propelled a lot of what we see with the show today. The fact that they were able to figure out how to put pyrotechnics onto an actor or a stunt double without seriously injuring someone is a mark of how far the special effects have come. Absolutely brilliant. Truly, the improvement of CSO as well for Lady Painfort had fallen when Lady Painfort had fallen into the Nemesis showed marked improvements overall as well. This story overall, while slightly convoluted with way too many characters, is a fun Cyberman story that combines history and sci-fi quite well with the characters that are both old and well established with the new in the show. Let me know what you think. There will be a video tomorrow, by the way. Feel free to subscribe. Chat about it, don't shout about it. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.
Thank you for watching today. Don't forget you can join me on my other platforms as well. I've got YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, X, TikTok, Instagram, Locals, Substack, and I also have a Discord. Everything is linked below.